So a previously unpublished letter from Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI has just been made public, and it directly addresses one of the most divisive theories in the Catholic Church since the year 2013. In it, Pope Benedict rejects, as he calls it, an absurd claim that when he resigned, he gave up only the ministry of St. Peter, but not the munus, the office itself. And he goes further, making it clear that those who hold this view are feeding schism in the church. Today we're going to walk through what the letter says, why it matters, the history behind the munus versus ministry debate, as it's called, and what this means for the unity of the Catholic Church moving forward. When Pope Benedict XVI shocked the world in February 2013 by announcing his resignation, it was the first time a pope had stepped down in nearly 600 years. His announcement sparked intense speculation, and for some, serious confusion. In canon law, the Pope holds the munus, the divinely given office of the papacy, and the ministerium, the active exercise of that office. Now, some fringe voices argued that Pope Benedict had only resigned the ministerium while keeping the munus. Now, if that were true, then Pope Francis would have been an antipope, and Benedict would have still been the true pope until his death in 2022. Some people promoted this because they were trying to grapple with things that they saw in Pope Francis that they really couldn't make sense of. So they wanted to believe that Pope Francis really wasn't the pope.
There are more and more people, as we move through the pontificate of Francis, more and more people are just saying, look, I'm not a theologian, I don't know Latin, I don't know ministerium, munus, I don't know. One thing I do know is I'm a Catholic, and I can't get on board with Francis. People are saying that. And so it's kind of like people say, well, Trump's not my president. People are saying, well, Francis isn't my pope, Benedict's my pope. And I don't know all the theology and the canon law and all that, but look, that's just how I got to live right now, because I can't get on with Pope Francis saying God wills a plurality and diversity of religions.
And this was a position that they could latch on to bolster that theory. This idea gained traction in certain Catholic corners, fueled by blogs, YouTube channels, and even among some clergy. Now, I've addressed this before, pointing out that Benedict's resignation clearly covered both the ministry and the munus, in full accord with canon law. And for people to make a real hardline distinction about this was absolutely illegitimate. But until now, we didn't have a direct word-for-word rebuttal from Pope Benedict himself, until this letter came to light. This letter, dated August 21st, 2014, was written by Pope Benedict after his resignation, but before his death, and it was not published until now. We're not exactly sure why the priest to whom the letter was written sat on this letter for so long, but it is what it is. In the letter, he writes, "The authoritative historians and other theologians, in my opinion, are neither true historians nor theological ones. The speculations they propose are absurd to me. To say that in my resignation I would have left only the exercise of the ministry, and not also the munus, is contrary to clear dogmatic and canonical doctrine. If some journalists speak of a creeping schism, they deserve no attention." That's crystal clear. Benedict explicitly rejects the claim that he retained the munus. In fact, he says for people to argue this, they're going against dogma. In other words, what they're saying is heretical. He calls the idea absurd and contrary to clear dogmatic and canonical doctrine. He also brushes aside talk of a creeping schism, essentially saying these claims do nothing but sow unnecessary division in the church. Now, why is this such a big deal? Because for over a decade, the Benedict is still Pope narrative, benevacantism as people called it, has often been used to undermine Pope Francis's papacy and legitimacy. It's fueled confusion, division, and in Benedict's own words, schism. Some people built entire ministries and online followings around this claim.
Item number 2. Unlike President Nixon, who resigned the entire office of the presidency in one sentence, Pope Benedict XVI seems to have resigned only part of the papacy, the active ministerium, the executive sphere of the papacy that empowers a pope to appoint cardinals, to write magisterial documents, and to serve as the head of state of Vatican City. He did renounce that. So he stopped doing, but he didn't in some sense stop being the pope. In other words, he did not seem to resign the munus, or the office, the charge itself of the papacy, the identity as pope.
Now we have direct evidence that Benedict himself rejected the theory outright. And this wasn't just an offhand comment. It's in writing, preserved, dated, and unequivocal. If we go back to the Benedict resignation announcement in 2013, he says this: "For this reason, and well aware of the seriousness of this act, with full freedom, I declare that I renounce the ministry of Bishop of Rome, successor of St. Peter, entrusted to me by the cardinals on the 19th of April 2005, in such a way that as of the 28th of February 2013, at 2000 hours, the See of Rome, the See of St. Peter, will be vacant, and a conclave to elect the new Supreme Pontiff will have to be convoked by those whose competence it is. I declare that I renounce the ministry of Bishop of Rome, so that the See of St. Peter will be vacant." Canon 332.2 of the Code of Canon Law says this: "If the Pope resigns, it must be freely made and properly manifested." There's nothing in there about splitting the papacy into two halves. Benedict's resignation fulfilled both requirements. This letter from 2014 simply reaffirms what was already clear from day one. But now we have it addressed directly to those pushing the munus versus ministry argument. I've said it before, not based on guesswork, but on canon law, papal statements, and historical precedent, that Benedict fully resigned the papacy. Now, the See of St. Peter is not only a ministry, but also an office. And he said he renounced the ministry and the See of St. Peter. Thus, he clearly renounced both the ministry and the office of the papacy. Per Canon 332, paragraph 2, for the resignation to be valid, he simply had to freely renounce the papacy and make this manifest in some way. Both things were done in his resignation speech. And if there remained any further doubts, once again, February 2014, Pope Benedict reiterated, quote, "The only condition for the validity of my resignation is the complete freedom of my decision. Speculation regarding its validity is simply absurd." End quote. Now with this letter, we have Benedict himself confirming it. It also means that those who have been promoting the Benedict is still Pope narrative were not only mistaken, but spreading something that Benedict himself considered harmful to church unity, and even heretical. Now I want to go down a rabbit trail for just a moment. Let's rewind to April of 2023. Around that time, Taylor Marshall and others promoted an alleged apparition, supposedly experienced by an anonymous nun, claiming that Pope Benedict XVI's ghost appeared to her. According to this claim, Benedict told the nun that Pope Francis and others murdered him, and that he was still the true pope, and that he never really resigned, and that Francis was an antipope. Yep, you heard that right. It was sensational. It spread quickly in certain circles, and many people took it seriously because well-known voices were amplifying it. In fact, I reviewed this situation in one of my most viewed videos at the time, showing why the claim was unfounded and why it didn't fit with Benedict's public statements or the facts that we had at the time. Was Pope Benedict XVI actually murdered by not only Pope Francis, but also his very own personal secretary, Archbishop Genswein? The claim is that he's not really the Pope, according to Benedict, who allegedly appeared to a nun and described all of this in an apparition. And I want to review that apparition. We're going to go through it. I'll give you the nitty-gritty, a summary of it, and then my evaluation of its alleged authenticity. I first heard of this because somebody shared this tweet with me where the very well-known traditionalist Dr. Taylor Marshall spread this on his social media. 181,000 people have seen this tweet. Apparition of Pope Benedict to Colombian nun, revealing his real testament, confirming that he was the last legitimate pope on earth. An alleged testimony from a Spanish-speaking nun from Colombia who allegedly experienced a vision. Pope Benedict allegedly comes to her. So Benedict claims that he actually remained the Pope even after a fake resignation. So he didn't really resign. He actually remained Pope. He says, quote, "The situation reached such an unbearable and discouraging level," that is the opposition that he received from the Masons and the College of Cardinals and in the church, "that the Holy Spirit of God inspired me in prayer to decide to continue my Peter ministry in a different way. Not so much actively and publicly as contemplative and prayerful. In this way, I managed to divert attention from me within the central administration of the Curia of the Vatican, as they demanded of me, and thus avert the great schism of all time." So, just in case you're not familiar, during the life of Pope Benedict, there was a group of non-Catholics called Benevacantists who claimed that Benedict was still Pope, and that Pope Francis may or may not actually have been Pope. There's various theories, but they would claim that they were Catholics and that they were holding to the true faith, and that Benedict was really actually still the Pope. And now this newly revealed letter from Benedict himself completely contradicts that apparition story. What's interesting and perhaps telling is that many of the same voices who promoted that apparition story seem to be completely silent right now. Given how strongly they pushed it, their silence on this new information is, as usual, conspicuous. But that's exactly what they do very often when new information comes out contradicting the things that they've been promoting. But back to the main point. What we have here is a decade-old debate brought to a close by Benedict's own words, and we don't need to overlook that. This letter isn't just a historical footnote. It's a definitive statement from the man at the center of the controversy, making it clear that he resigned both the ministry and the office of the papacy, and that the claims to the contrary are a danger to unity. The real question now is whether those who promoted this theory will stand corrected in light of Benedict's own words, or will they continue to spin it, perhaps even claiming the letter is forged. It's a reminder that careful readings of the facts matters more than speculation, and that when the record is clear, we should let the record speak for itself and not try to complicate things. Hey everyone, I'm excited to announce my upcoming 2-part live lecture series on one of the most misunderstood teachings in Catholic history, no salvation outside the church. We're going to dig deep into what the church really means by that phrase. From the early church fathers through the medieval period to the Council of Trent, Vatican II, and right up to the present. We'll talk about how the church understands salvation, who may be saved, and the unique role that the church plays in God's plan. Both lectures will be covered live on August 16th, 2025, starting at 12 p.m. Central, each 1 hour long with a 15-minute break in between, and then a 30-minute Q&A where I'll answer your questions directly. And here's the best part. If you can't make it to the live sessions, no worries. The course will be posted the very same day, so you'll have full access to watch it at any time. If you're watching this after August 16th, you can still get access to the course. In fact, right now, and you can start watching instantly. To sign up, just go to rtcourses.com, click on No Salvation Outside the Church, a careful look at the Catholic position, and hit the Buy Now button. Whether you've wrestled with this doctrine before, or you just want a clear, faithful, and balanced explanation, this is your chance to go deep without the confusion or the extremes. Reserve your spot today, and I'll see you there.